connection of sorts, if you will, to the rioting that's going on in Baltimore is Micky Hirten, veteran newspaper editor and reporter, writes for the Lansing City Pulse, and he's on the other end of our AT&T line right this second. Thanks for being available. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
I was watching CNN the other day, and it didn't seem real. I mean, you're watching the fire truck pull up to a burning CVS, and right there, as they put the hose to the fire hydrant, some people ran up with knives and cut the fire hose, water squirting all over the place, and there's a CNN reporter standing right there talking about how that neighborhood seemed like it was something lost in time. There was no grocery store, no place to get fruits and vegetables, that it was not like modern America, not like it's supposed to be anyway. What part of Baltimore is he in, and is it really that grim in Baltimore?
Yeah, parts of Baltimore are just awful. He was in the sort of the west part of Baltimore. The west and east of Baltimore are just horribly destroyed neighborhoods, and they have been for generations. Parts of Baltimore that work are certainly around the waterfront, the harbor area, and north. There's some really wonderful neighborhoods, gorgeous neighborhoods that go north of the city. But on the two edges, east and west, it's really terrible. That's where they filmed The Wire. I mean, a lot of the sort of the ghetto scenes were shot there, and that was a fairly good depiction of what it's like. I mean, Baltimore's really a tale of two cities. I mean, it's the parts that work are terrific, but the fundamentals have they've collapsed, and it's just gotten worse. You know, city's down to about 600,000 people now. It used to be 1 million. You know, it's not unlike Detroit in some ways. Big city, and the education is bad, the infrastructure is bad, the housing is awful. So, what they say, 17,000 abandoned homes in the city itself. I mean, it's really terrible.
It does sound like,
and you got the social issues. You got the poverty and the policing actions, and this is not unexpected. This kind of riot.
It does sound like you're describing Detroit, almost to the statistical numbers of people living there, the number of abandoned homes, the fact that, sure, the downtown area maybe is, I don't want to say thriving. Maybe it is thriving. It's coming back a little bit. But if you go out into deepest, darkest Detroit, where there aren't even street lights, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, and the same with Detroit. I mean, the whole industrial base collapsed. When I lived there, I mean, you had Bethlehem Steel was the largest steel mill in the country. You had General Motors had plants there. Western Electric built cable. You had sub-steel makers. You had stainless steel makers. You had all kinds of companies that built things, manufactured things. I wrote stories about so many of these companies. They did everything from umbrellas manufacture to insulators for telephone poles, and that all disappeared. There are no manufacturing type jobs there anymore, and that's what sort of held the middle class together. And even if you were poor, it still provided an employment base. There were opportunities there. That's gone. And so what you've got now are maybe service types of jobs. Look, the largest employer in the whole state or in the whole city is Johns Hopkins, between its hospital and its university. But you know, that's not helping the folks who are standing on the sides or protesting or rioting, which isn't to excuse any of the rioting, of course, but it's just I'm not sure how this is gonna get better. I mean, even things like recreation centers. They used to have about 75, 80 recreation centers. They now have 40. Well, okay, that's fine. Cities in fiscal distress, but this is the kinds of consequence.
Yeah, I'm not old enough to remember, but they're going to play a game in Baltimore today, the Orioles, with nobody in the stands because of the situation. And there are people who remember being at Tiger Stadium when a game was going on and watching smoke come out over the outfield bleachers as Detroit was burning with its own riots.
Well, we're going to the Preakness in 2 weeks, Maureen and I. And my son's going to be there, and we'll see. I'm hoping things have calmed down and settled down by then. But it's funny. We'll look at the city a little differently when we go back, and probably drive through the downtown areas and just see what's happened. But even the Preakness, though, is interesting. I mean, one of the major horse races in the world every year, but very specialized, very centered north of the city. and doesn't really have much to do with the, you know, declining neighborhoods and destroyed neighborhoods that, you know, are the foundation.
How far would Pimlico be from where the rioting is happening?
Well, you know, actually, Pimlico from, you know, where they had that mall that the original rioting started, the Mondawmin Mall. Pimlico is probably 7 or 8 miles, maybe 5 miles from there,
Okay.
and about 5 miles from downtown. But again, it's a city of neighborhoods, so that's sort of near. Actually, it's sort of a neighborhood. On one hand, you've got a large black contingent. On the other hand, you've got a area of Mount Washington, which is, you know, very nice homes, very wealthy area. So it's that kind of divided city. I mean, one, you know, 5 miles away, it's terrible. 10 miles this way, it's great. Blocks, and it's tough though, because it's sad to see, and it seems to be getting worse since I lived there.
Camden Yards, the baseball stadium, is more in the sort of Marina district, downtown district.
Yeah.
So that's also
downtown, right next. No, that's all downtown. That's just right by the football stadium, and that's really sort of in the inner harbor area. And what they've done, remember, the whole harbor has been redeveloped. So when you go there, if you and I go there, or tourists go there, they see this spectacular harbor front on both sides of it, extending from the core of the city all the way, start moving its way east and south. But that's once you get beyond that, that's when the problems are. And if you look at that, you say, well, this city is fantastic. Well, it is there, but again, not many people go much beyond those areas.
Micky Hirten, who lived and worked in Baltimore and will be back for the Preakness Stakes in 2 weeks. The Kentucky Derby is this weekend in Louisville, of course. We'll keep in touch and talk to you from Baltimore when you go.